Pick it up there a little bit on the North Lawn as retired General Charles Wald joins us. He is the former Director of Strategic Planning and Policy for the Air Force and former Deputy Commander of U.S. European Command. Welcome back, General Wald. This idea on the status report that we had from the administration today, particularly Secretary Rubio, that one operation is over, Operation Epic Fury is over, and we're on to the next. Is that how you see things?
Yeah, I do. I thought the Secretary did a really good job today explaining the situation and focusing on the fact that this is defensive. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding it, but I believe the United States is doing the exact right thing here, and I think we're going down the right path. I mean, I would go even a step further and say we probably ought to go in and take out any military capability that threatens the region, including Israel, and end that. Because if we don't, we're going to have to go back and do that in the future. So I think the United States military is doing exactly the right thing here.
So more on where you think that path is leading us. If you're talking about taking out those facilities, that sounds like all-out war resumes. In other words, a hot war, as people call it. That's where we're going back to, you think?
Well, you can call it all-out war. I think it's all-out defensive measures by the United States primarily. Israel has kind of stopped attacking as we speak. But I think, again, if we don't go in and take out any remaining missile development capability, any air defense capability, any command and control capability, anything that helps develop a nuclear weapon, not necessarily the nuclear uranium that's buried. But I think we should do that now. We're there with our forces. We've been doing this, and I think it'd be the right thing for the United States and our allies.
Taken us 2 months plus to get here. How long would it take us to get there, do you think?
Well, it depends on how many targets are left. You know, we have really exquisite intelligence, so we have a lot of targets. But I would think we'd have a week or two, and then we should just say that's the end of it. And then we do need to make sure the Strait of Hormuz stays open, which is another issue in itself.
Secretary talked over and over about that. But how do we do that? You know, is this the operation we're doing now enough, or is it more along the lines of what you're saying? How do we make sure? Because as much as the point is well taken that we can't allow a rogue nation, as Secretary Rubio put it today, to control this waterway. I said earlier, many people would say, well, they weren't doing much to control it before the war. In other words, they were allowing the transit of vessels. How do we get back there?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people probably listening to this and around the nation that say you can't go back in there and start fighting on the land. But if I were if I know the commander, Brad Cooper, has got a plan for this, but I would go in and take out any capability that the Iranians have along the coastline to extend threats into the Gulf. I would take out any military capability there is on Karg Island. And I would ensure that our ships and I continue to escort. We did this in 1985 during escort. So I would do that. I would take out the land-based threats along the coast that are basically focused on shipping in there, any boats they could find, any missiles they could find. And I would have our ships stay there until we know we have the capitulation by the Iranians.
What type of assets would that take? On the telestrator, we have the Project Freedom assets, all right, the guided missile destroyers and drones and the other land and sea-based aircraft, but also the 15,000 personnel. How many troops are you talking about to do what you describe?
By the way, I've been watching you all day. I think it's excellent, but that's not a drone. That's an A-10 pictured there.
On the third one over, okay. Yeah, right. Yep. So it's just other sea-based aircraft, and that's not. Right. Yep. You got. Oh, I see where you see the second one. Yep. Go ahead.
Anyway, I think we have the assets in place. You know, the one carrier is coming home. They've been at sea for 10 months. Two carriers and 100 aircraft is 100 more than they have right now.
Right.
The number of ships we have there is in almost 40. That's 40 more than they have. 15,000 troops is plenty. I think
so. You wouldn't need any more troops.
None. I think we're in good shape.
And then you're talking, to go back to the earlier question, just because I think this is what regular people say. Well, okay, we've been, like I said, doing this 2 months plus. Gas price is almost $4.50. So you're talking. It sounds like months, not weeks. Or is that wrong too?
No, I'd go back toward the weeks period. I mean, it depends on how. I think our targeting is good. I think they've got the right targets picked out, and I think Brad Cooper has done a fantastic operational job. I think he'd be able to tell the president and Secretary of Defense when we're ready.
Okay, and then it ends how? And how do things look? In other words, there's a signed agreement.
No, well. If we could get an agreement where the Iranians say they're not going to make a nuclear weapon, that would be fantastic.
Right, but are you talking about, so you're talking about the regime then giving up and being out of power in that time frame?
Well, I don't think that they're inclined to publicly admit they're going to have to give up or quit. But I think we make the determination of when that threat is gone. And if the Iranians don't like it, that's fine. Try to do something else, but they're pretty much decimated right now. I think we need to continue.
Yeah, because a lot of our guests, you've been watching, I've been working on this assumption that, even if things go quote unquote well for the U.S. from here out, that the regime in some way will stay in power. But you're saying maybe that won't happen.
Well, the ideal situation is that they're overthrown by their own people. That's problematic. In January, it's already been talked about a lot. 42,000 dead that are protesting. Right. So that's pretty tough. I think they just kind of wilt away because their economy is so bad right now. They have no wherewithal to develop new weapons. I think they just atrophy. And basically, we keep them in their box and we make sure the rest of the GCC countries, the Persian Gulf and Israel stay safe.
Yeah, the UAE's been taking some incoming fire here the last couple of days. All right, General Wald, thank you, sir, once again for joining us.